Villages had disappeared. Woods had disappeared. The battlefield was a lunar landscape.
These days of Verdun were foul. Several times they have raised before our eyes the veil of hell. Our mission was to be crushed. Divisions followed each other. They had no other role but to set up each day before the enemy a wall of corpses.
Trenches were mere ditches. For days you never saw the enemy, just endless shells.
You ate beside the dead. You drank beside the dead. You relieved yourself beside the dead. You slept beside the dead.
Often you had no sleep for over a week.
Tomorrow those who sleep in beds will read in their newspapers that the line is held. How can they imagine what that simple word, held, means?
In the line, men often went for days without food, for the ration parties were frequently killed on the 6-mile slog through the mud to the front positions. Even out of the line, the rations weren't much to write home about. Stringy and greasy tinned beef, known as monkey, salted cod and rubbery macaroni. Indeed, only a few months before, the sardonic humor of the French soldier had been roused by a propaganda leaflet circulated by headquarters. Our soldiers, it claimed, have always enjoyed 2 meals a day. They are much better fed than the Germans. The soldiers had disagreed. 200,000 of them had written to protest. But at least the rations were free, and so was the wine ration, Pinard, the rough red wine beloved by the French soldier. Pinard, which made up a little for the miserable pay, 5 sous a day, nearly 2 halfpenny. Pinard, which gave a man courage to forget the present. For the only real enemy now was the battle itself. The horror of that battle tarnished the face of every soldier at Verdun, Frenchman and German alike. By the end of April, after 70 days fighting, the Germans had lost 120,000 men. The French had lost 133,000. General Pétain's reinforcements poured endlessly up the sacred way.
My heart leapt as I saw our young men of 20 going into the furnace of Verdun. Jolted about in their uncomfortable trucks, or bowed by the weight of their equipment, they encouraged one another by their jokes and by their songs. But when they came out of the battle, what a pitiful sight they were. Their expressions seemed frozen by a vision of terror. They sagged beneath the weight of horrifying memories.
It seemed as if these mute faces were crying something terrible. The unbelievable horror of their martyrdom.
Pétain's demands for troops displeased Joffre.
Had I yielded to all his demands for reinforcements, the whole French army would have been absorbed in the battle. He was well aware that I was trying to collect the largest possible number of divisions for the Somme offensive.
So, in May, Pétain was succeeded by General Robert Nivelle, an out-and-out apostle of the offensive, a man of boundless ambition and self-confidence. Nivelle was told that he could expect no more fresh troops. "No matter," he said, "we have the formula." The formula included his right-hand man, the toughest general in the whole French army, Charles Mangin. Mangin's motto was, "Fight to the limit." The French had by now gained their superiority over the battlefield. Aerial tactics were becoming more and more sophisticated. Both sides sent their greatest aces to Verdun. The Germans had Oswald Boelcke, and von Richthofen, the deadliest of them all, was blooded here. The French threw in their famous Storks group, including such legendary figures as Guynemer, Navarre. In May, the French fighter squadrons swept the skies over Verdun. It was a heartening sight to the French infantry. The German observation balloons were sitting targets to aerial rockets the French were using for the first time. Now it was the French turn to attack.
How many have died like this, without glory, taken by surprise on their first day? They have given their life, and nobody even knew their name.
Hell cannot be so terrible as this. Humanity is mad. It must be mad to do what it is doing.
One begins to ask oneself, where is victory? And whether it might not lie in any kind of peace which would at least save the race. An artery of French blood was cut on February 21st, and it flows incessantly in large spurts.
Paris, 150 miles from Verdun. Another country, another world. Paris, still gay, still pleasure-seeking after 2 years of war. The music halls were full every night. Tipperary and the Roses of Picardy were favorites imported by the British. The theaters, closed in 1914, had reopened. Mistinguett danced to huge crowds. The actress Sarah Bernard, even with one leg now amputated, still graced the boards, the personification of France herself, mutilated but undaunted. Civilian France in the early summer of 1916 had not yet felt the full pinch of war. Coal was short, but food still plentiful. By law, there was one meatless day a week, but few, except the poor, took any notice. The cost of living had gone up 1/5 since 1914, but wages had risen too. Factory workers could earn as much as 15 francs a day, nearly 12 shillings, 60 times more than the French soldier. French soldiers, when they were lucky enough to get leave at all, felt themselves strangers in their own